This is the Inquisitive Minds Podcast.
Hey, thank you for tuning in the Inquisitive Minds Podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Johnny Smith. My guest today has a very interesting story about a haunted house. We're returning to the paranormal. But before we get into that, let's get a proper introduction. She hails from the Wheeling, West Virginia area and is the events and promotion manager for Folklore Public Relations and assists with events while being the booking agent for exitzeroentertainment. With a psychology degree, she finds herself most often doing social work and community what is wrong with me today? Community advocacy. We're going to keep that in because I'm trying to relate to the audience. I'm human. I make mistakes. And not working on events and other various projects. Welcome, Crin Joy.
Hey, thank you very much.
Sorry I botched that up so much. How are you today?
It's fine. I'm well. I'm doing well.
That's good. So, before we get into the funk, tell me a little bit more about folklore because I don't know much about that.
That's kind of a newer addition to my life with my involvement in it. However, they've only been around for about a year or so, but it is a public relations organization, but they cater more towards small businesses and the social sector. So trying to make public relations, whether that is commercials or social media management or events, it's trying to make it a little bit more available to folks that might not be able to afford it with a bigger agency.
Okay, now what role do you come in? Where do you come in involved in that?
Well, because it is events and promotion, I mean, there really isn't too many events going on right now. However, depending on the client and what they would need, I mean, that could be doing fundraisers. That could be, I did work on a telethon that we did for an animal rescue.
Oh.
And I kind of got to be a production assistant a little bit while we were filming, and that was really cool. What's nice is that, I mean, everybody has their particular expertise, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
However, because there's only 7 people in, like, the organization, or, like 7 or 8 of us, so it's pretty small. But we can always dip in and help out with other things. And it's necessary a lot of the time anyway.
You guys sound like the Planeteers. You're each coming in with your rings and forming folklore.
Yes, and I'm sure that they would absolutely love that analogy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how long Exit Zero Entertainment has been around, but I met you about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You booked me for a show that sight unseen. Thank you for that opportunity again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was in the backyard.
Yep.
It was pretty cool. It rained, but it was a wild time.
It still turned out really well, and I was really nervous.
It did.
We had like 8 people on that ticket.
Yeah, there was quite a few of us.
And an intermission, but it still worked out.
And an encore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yep.
Hey, can you guys go back up and do more time? They really enjoyed it.
And then they just start like throwing money at me. Like, can you just like give? I feel like I'm like silently giving people money again, and then having them do. I don't know. It was great, but.
And we all said, looked at our books. And said, yeah, I guess I can go back up. Like, here's the B stuff, guys.
Yeah.
I think I screamed at a lady who kept saying, "Aw," Like every time I told a joke, she would say, "Ah," and I just, at one point, just started losing my mind on her.
She felt bad for you.
Yeah, like, lady, I'm telling jokes. Fucking laugh or shut the fuck up. But were you part of Exit Zero Entertainment during that time?
That had just started. Exit Zero existed, and then I had asked them if they wanted to be part of booking Olivia Grace because I had a contact that connected me with her. And she was going to be able to stop in Wheeling.
Shout out to Olivia, very funny comic.
Yes, absolutely. And she had, I got connected with her, and Jermaine and Ron had already been working in things with Exit Zero, and I knew them. And so I was like, I would like to put Exit Zero on this because I know it would help build their brand, and I really liked what they were doing. And then shortly after that, it kind of just evolved into me being more part of the team and helping with the events and cultivating shows and booking.
Now, for those who don't know or didn't listen, another part of Exit Zero Entertainment, Jermaine Lucius, was on episode 17, I believe it was, or 27, one of those two, veteran suicide, because he's a veteran as well.
Right.
And he talked about Exit Zero, so go check that out, guys. Very cool dude, very interesting, and very, very diverse. Like his background, he's
German.
like German.
Yeah.
He's like a black German dude, and it's weird. And like you expect so much. I remember the first time I saw Jermaine, I just thought he was security at Mac's Club.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
well, he kind of posts up like that.
yeah, he
bit.
posts up and he gives off this real tough look. And you go talk to him, and he's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, what? Where did that voice come from? You know, he's so soft spoken. But yeah, no. So you developed that, and now you just book the talent for events and whatnot.
Yeah, and because Exit Zero, like, there's 3 of us, and so it's just we all end up working on it together, and then or it's like, can you call this venue and check on this, or I might have an in somewhere, and then try to weasel our way in to let me do a underground comedy show.
That's a good way to describe a comedy show too. Weaseling our way in.
It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sneaky. It's like, oh, hey, did you say you need more entertainment here? Well, I do know someone, and it's actually me. So, but
now,
but yeah,
I didn't know you had a psychology degree either.
yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
Wheeling Jesuit
Okay.
University, which is not Wheeling Jesuit anymore, but it's just Wheeling University.
Oh, okay. What did you? That's what you used it for? Was social work?
That's just kind of what I always was into doing different service trips that the school offered, and was really into social justice, and I've done a lot of protests and other things. And then that's just kind of where I kept ending back up. I mean, I also worked for an insurance company doing like disability claims. I also did mental health intake with them, but I've also done like preschool. Right now, I work with families and their kids, and I actually did just get a job that starts in a couple weeks, which is working with the Greater Wheeling Homeless Coalition.
Okay.
And I'll be doing housing case management. So a lot of that is trying to not just place someone in a home temporarily, but having it set up that it's affordable, that they have a job that will afford that place to permanently end homelessness with that person. So I'm pretty excited for getting that. So that's like my full-time things I do, and then all the other stuff on the side. So
you said you've done a lot of protests. I just want to say you've heard it here first, folks. Crin Joy was at the Capitol.
Yes, I absolutely. That's like
she sees the Capitol.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now, initially, you reached out because you grew up in a haunted house. You say?
Yeah, I would say so.
Can you set the background of like location, growing up, such and so forth?
Okay. It was a house, and the house I had been in until I was 18 and went to college. So it's not like we even moved around. So I've had extensive experience living in the house. And it is in 84 PA, which is, I mean, like outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You know, between that and Little Washington. So, and just a small ranch house, and I don't really remember too much of things happening whenever I was really little, but it was as I started to get older that I vividly remember some things. However, I was always told that I was talking to people and stuff in my room, and then I would say like, oh, well, that's like, I would say like, that's my pap or whatever. That's like my grandfather, which had passed away since, you know, but I was always talking to like dead relatives supposedly, but I didn't, you know, I couldn't really have known much about what I, you know, anything at the time.
Well, first I'm going to say it's not that I don't think they're credible, but I prefer stories from people who, like adolescents, a little older. teenagers, adults, because when you're telling a story about something you remember as a child,
Yeah.
you have a child's perspective, so
Right.
things can be extremely distorted.
Right.
It's interesting though. They say you would speak to Pap and
But I
whoever
don't
else.
really remember too much of those things. It was whenever I was older, and then even as an adult coming back to the house, like on breaks and stuff, it's just the eerie feelings.
Okay, so
that existed.
when did you first experience something? About what age?
I think it was probably around 13 or 14 was when I first noticed a particular thing.
Okay.
I mean, pictures did just fall off the wall. But it's not like the nail fell out. It's not that something ripped off the back of it just like would fall off the wall.
Okay.
And that happened in this hallway. We had a addition put onto the house. It was a long ranch house, and that's just important because that hallway is like where it bridged the old and the new.
Okay.
That's where a lot of things happened, and it was right outside my room, of course.
That's interesting, and I feel like there should be a metaphor in there somewhere that I just can't put together.
It probably is.
Yeah.
So there was definitely this presence of a little child. And sometimes in the hallway, I would feel something behind me. And I would turn around, and there would be this little watery figure for just a split second.
Now, when you say a watery figure,
Yeah.
about what size? I guess I got a few questions about this.
I don't know, probably a little bit, about, looked like a 2-year-old.
Okay, so about the size of a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say watery figure, is that like describing the color?
It was like if you're looking through this like bottle of water.
Okay.
And like how it like, I mean, just, it was watery. It wasn't smoky. It was more watery.
So you'd see this boy
and
behind you.
you could see the outline.
Oh,
you
wow.
could tell it was a little boy.
Okay.
And I didn't know really anything in the time on what that was, but sometimes I would just feel something run up on me, or a couple times like I heard something running in the hallway. And I thought we had 2 big dogs, so maybe it was that. But I found out later with that when I had started to tell my parents and stuff about it. They had bought that house, and it had been foreclosed or something, or I don't know. But the family prior to that had a little boy that passed away, and he was 2.
Do you know what he passed away of?
I think it was cancer.
Oh, that's
like
unfortunate.
leukemia or something.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it wasn't a pain like a violent death.
No, and he wasn't that kind of presence either.
Oh, he was
like just hanging out.
Just a little
and dicking
mischievous
around.
little boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't. It kind of made me anxious. However, just because it was strange.
Yes.
But I didn't feel any threat.
Okay, but
with that one.
I was going to say that leads me to believe that there's more, and they weren't as nice.
Yes.
Well, let me have it.
Okay. After the little boy, that kind of happened for a while. There was another nice one that I'm pretty sure was my grandfather that had passed away whenever I was an infant. So, whenever I really started to see things which it would come in spurts where I'd see stuff all the time, and then sometimes just nothing. So it was strange.
Let me stop you for a second, Crin. Have you ever been to like a medium or
I
some
did
type
go,
of psychic?
I did. I did once.
Any results?
She did say something about me seeing things before.
Okay.
And she was like, "You've extensively seen things." And but I am even though I'm talking about this right now, this is stuff that I've really seen, and it even gives me goosebumps even talking about it. But I'm really analytical, and I'm really skeptical of things.
Okay. Yeah,
so
no,
with mediums, I'm I don't know.
You gotta be.
Know.
I've had a medium on here. I hope to have some more in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And no disrespect to their craft, but I have to be skeptical.
Right.
Right. And I hope they all have all the success in the world. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's fascinating. That's why I want to talk to them. If you're a medium or you know one or a psychic or anything like that, palm reader, reach out to the podcast. I want to get you on. I want to talk to you. But you said there were times where you saw a bunch of stuff, then there were times where it lulled.
Right. It's almost like something, so to speak, opened the gates to the other side, and then there was just a bunch at like one time.
Boom, portal.
But then I just was like, all right, guys, like, this is just not cool. Like,
You know what happened is they shut off the containment unit.
Probably.
At the Ghostbusters. And when everything got out, New York's not that far from Pennsylvania.
That's true.
If you were going to travel.
That's true.
They travel in packs. Fucking Peck, huh? How about him?
That makes sense. I mean, now that I think about like the year, well, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this.
Accurate.
When there was more things that started happening, almost as the portal opened, were you in any type of emotionally vulnerable situation?
I was
there
a
a lot of
teenager.
changes? Okay. I mean,
It
that
was
in
awful.
itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of unrest and hormones and just awful,
I know they say when you're in like high stress situations that it's easier to get contacted by those types of things.
I do feel more of like looming presences if I'm in a certain headspace.
Okay.
Usually like a negative one. Or just having a difficult time, or I've just noticed that feeling. And during that time, I mean, another time walking down the hallway, I stopped to turn around and grab something, and an arm shot out, plain as day, against the wall, almost like bracing itself so it doesn't like run into me. But had a wedding ring on, was a pretty fuzzy arm.
Like a man's arm?
Definitely a man. A fuzzy lady's arm.
Yeah. Hey, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. And then the shirt it had like kind of like an elastic. It wasn't really an elastic band, but it was like tight here. And then it had 2 blue stripes and then a white stripe. And I described it to my mom, and she just got like real upset and like seemed like she was mad at me, and I didn't know what she was talking about. But she showed me a picture, and it was like a shirt that my grandfather wore all the time.
Oh.
And there was no pictures of that. Like, the only pictures up with him were like ones from weddings or, the church directory pictures.
This is when he run the rollerball derby.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, I didn't, to my knowledge, have access to know what that would look like.
All right, I can't just skip
so
over this,
that was crazy.
Though. So it was just an arm.
It was just an
up
arm.
against the
It looked
wall.
like it was attached to something. I mean, I should say that also. It wasn't just
Like,
just some flying arm.
That's what I thought
Yeah.
at first, just a flying arm.
No, it absolutely looked like it was like I saw it all the way up to here, just out of the corner of my eye when I turned my head. So it was like someone was behind me. It wasn't just like.
So it wasn't just an arm.
Just a detached
it was a full
arm being-
apparition, but you only saw.
I only saw that. Yeah.
To the arm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could tell like the height too.
I was thinking of what's that hand that goes around on the Addams Family or whatever? I was just,
Thing.
Yeah, thing. You know, man, I saw a picture today on Instagram of a model missing an arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, when you said that, I thought immediately, I was like, oh, that's a
Oh,
ghost
that's
of
where it
someone's
went.
arm. You know,
That's
like,
where her arm went.
that's where limbs go
It's
when they
when it-
die.
That's yeah. Well, I mean, that's a reasonable deduction. I
Yeah.
think.
So that presence, I imagine scary, but at the same time, not hurtful.
No, it was fine. Strange, but and then shortly after that, it was within a week. I opened the refrigerator, and this key like fell down, like it was sitting on top, and it had like this old plastic keychain on it that looked like maybe it was some promotional thing for a business, but it was like all rubbed off.
Okay.
And then it was a pretty big key, and then I gave it to my dad. And then he was like, where did you get this? And then he showed my mom. And supposedly it was a key to his shed.
To your father's shed?
To my mom's father, like my grandfather's
Okay.
shed. Like so the same dude that I think I saw in the hallway.
Yeah.
That just was there. And we're really not sure how that got there because he hadn't been alive for 15 years at this point. And
Maybe-
they haven't even been in that house because my grandma moved to Florida, and so it didn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, we probably should go to the shed, though.
Yeah, did
guys.
you go to the shed?
No, because
Oh, man.
I tried to figure out where the house was and stuff, and then they like wouldn't tell me then because they were worried about me getting
Going
in
to the
trouble for
shed?
trespassing.
Now I want to know what's really in the
Lame.
shed.
That house is in Bethel Park.
Okay, we're not that far from there.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out.
I'm breaking into a shed later on, folks. Catch me on the news. Hey, this is a good time
Yeah.
right now to let you know this episode of Inquisitive Minds podcast is sponsored by Tenacious Detail, your mobile detail solutions for the Pittsburgh and surrounding area. I know it's cold out. No one wants to go out, wait in the lobby, all that jazz. That's why we come to you. Have your car detailed at the convenience of your home or office. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/tenaciousdetailpgh or give us a call to schedule an appointment at 724-498-9942. So after you saw this and the key happened, where did something come in that was more scary, that was more fearful?
That was also when I was in the hallway, but it was down into the part of the addition, so
I gotta
you could
ask,
see all the
though,
way down it.
How long is this hallway? Because it sounds
very-
like a world's happening in there.
I don't know, 15 feet maybe.
Okay.
Between 10 and 15 feet. So it's not, there were, like my parents' master bedroom was at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the hallway. And then on, like, the sides of the hallway or whatever, that was, like, my brother and my rooms.
Okay.
And he was right across the hall from me.
Okay.
Okay. But my perception of the hallway, however, may be inaccurate. Like, it felt long to me because there was so much weird shit that happened with it.
Yeah.
And whenever I'd see something, it would feel like I would almost like zone out a little bit. So, I mean, it really could be shorter, honestly, now that I think about it. But it's just, that was such a weird spot in that house. There wasn't too many other places that I saw anything other than whenever we found that key that was in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I
but yeah, it
interrupted
was
you
weird. Oh no, it's
about
fine.
the malicious presence.
Yeah. That one, there were more pictures that kind of fell off the wall, or a picture that broke while it was still on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like the glass cracked, and it was.
Oh, and it was hanging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just cracked. And it was somewhere where it doesn't get knocked down. It wasn't knocked down.
What was it a
figure it out.
picture of?
It was like my parents' like wedding picture.
See, that's the
actually.
thing. I like to try and
they
find
shortly
the
did
intentions.
Yeah, well, I mean, things weren't really going well, and they've been divorced now and remarried for a really long time. So, I mean, maybe it was like just letting everybody know, like, hey, we know something's up.
Shit's gonna go south, y'all.
Yeah, like, stop kidding yourselves. So, yes, the more malicious presence was a dark, shadowy kind of figure, like a cloud. And that was definitely looked like a woman, but kind of like 1800s-ish, like
Okay.
corset, and then like a A-line dress with, like, you know, the puffy kind of.
Yeah.
And then a hat that was tilted to the side. Like, I could see that.
So she had some swag to her.
Yeah. And then she was holding hands with what looked like a little boy.
1 second. I'm trying to connect with the young audience. She had some drip. Go ahead.
Maybe that's why she's mad. She probably should have seen a doctor. I don't know if kids these days know what the drip is either. Because saying drip is like just so strange to me. I'm like, why would you describe anything like that? It's not odd.
She's got the drip.
Yeah. So, yeah, but she was holding the hand of like a little boy, and they're both like standing there staring at me. And he looked like he had like little knickers on, I guess, with like the socks that come up to the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see it, just the outline so well. that freaked me out. And that was the first time that I didn't just feel like uneasy because it was weird. I felt freaked out and didn't want to go into the room.
Did they do anything, say anything, movement at all, or was it just you saw it and then they're gone?
Yeah, but they lasted for almost a second, which a lot of it was like a fraction of a second. But that was...
It can last a lifetime.
It was just weird that I saw, they lasted a little bit longer. And actually, like, I'm getting like a lot of feedback on my...
Oh, from the headphones?
Yeah, it was like this crackly kind of noise. But now I'm like freaked out.
See, that's what it is. The ghosts, they
yeah, okay.
They
so
hear
anyway,
you talking shit, so they're messing with the equipment.
No, but listen, whenever I talk about, I'm just gonna wait until there's like other weird shit that happens, because whenever I bring this stuff up and talk about it, like there's something weird.
Hold on. So I'm filming right now, and we're talking about ghosts, and we're having troubles with the equipment. Did I just become the new Zach Baggins?
Oh my god.
Fuck that guy. Go ahead, Crin. Hey, you motherfucking ghosts, come get me. Shut up, dude. Shut the fuck up.
But yeah, that was strange.
Okay.
And then after that, I really wasn't around the house as much anymore because I went to college. But then whenever I came back, it was just, there was a really uneasy feeling.
Well, tell me about this shadowy figure you saw.
Yeah, that was the lady with the kid.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was like, looked like a black cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But the outline was really
Okay.
pronounced. But yeah, that was the one that like really freaked me out. And then that's also around the time when more pictures kind of fell off the wall. And the hallway was lined with them. So they would just be on the floor.
I always wonder about the story of people. You know, like that that figure. Like, what was her deal? Especially if she came off like so negative, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the only one that made me really kind of like freaked out.
Okay.
You know? But there wasn't I mean, there were a couple times where I felt like just it was in the hallway again, and it was around that time where I just kind of felt like this existential dread feeling just come over me out of nowhere, and just felt not right, and instantly nauseous, instantly like feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack. And I mean, I haven't quite experienced that feeling again as strong as in that house.
Now,
like it felt like it just like something like went through me and made me feel that way, and then I felt uneasy and then just didn't feel well for like the rest of the day.
That's wild. Now, at the time, were you telling people about this when you were experiencing this?
I didn't too much, actually. A couple of my friends, and then some things with my mom.
Okay.
I had mentioned. My brother was 5 years younger than me at the time, and I never really wanted to freak him out.
Is he now no longer 5 years younger than you?
That's true. Yeah. Yes, he's still actually 5 years younger than me, which is crazy how it works out like that. But yes, so, well, I think what I maybe was trying to say at the time, I didn't want to. Now I'm like, why did I say that?
I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just busting your balls.
I didn't want to scare him.
Okay.
Like now, you know, I don't give a shit if I scare him as much. But at the time, it was, you know, I mean, he's
if it's
10, 11, 12.
Yeah, why did you want to scare him?
I didn't. So, and I didn't really I didn't understand what I was seeing. And I mean, my mom and I had kind of like mentioned that there's some weird stuff, you know. And my dad even knew that too. And he would tell me years later, but also years later, whenever my parents weren't in that house anymore. And I was looking at the market, and I noticed that it was for sale. And I mentioned to my brother, I know that there's a lot of issues with it and structurally and all that stuff. I say something to my brother. Now, mind you, I have not spoken to him about any of these things. And he's like, Crin, you can't get that house. Like, you can't get that house. I'm like, why? And I'm like, well, I mean, and he's like, no, just a lot of bad things happen there. I'm like, well, what do you know? And he said, no, it's like haunted. Like, there's spirits there that like aren't okay. And I'm like, wait a second. What do you mean? And then we talked about, like, he also saw stuff with the pictures. He also thought about he's like, well, the little boy. And then he also brought up that there wasn't something right about the addition to the house. And, you know, a lot of the experiences were strangely similar, but there was a lot of stuff I had told some of my friends, but I didn't even, like, tell my mom or my dad, like, some of it.
That's got to be a bittersweet feeling. Like, you get confirmation.
Yeah,
almost.
and then I'm like, oh, damn.
But then you got confirmation.
Right.
So it's like, ooh, I'm not crazy, but oh shit, it's real.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, did you learn anything about the house? Was there any trouble after you guys moved out?
I did keep up on it, and it has been sold in a short period of time more times than I think would be normal. Like, I think there's been 3 or 4 different owners since they moved out, and it's been like 15 years.
Okay.
But I feel like that's probably not really typical. It's probably more. I mean, every time I've, like, looked at it, I mean, I don't know. There's been more owners than I would think.
Just no one seems to stay in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything about the land? Do you know anything about the land at all?
I don't, other than, like, I mean, even around there, it's still not, like, crazily developed. Like, there was a lot of woods and things. It was, we had a neighbor that was they had a longer driveway, and it was behind our backyard.
Okay.
But we didn't, it's not really in a neighborhood or anything, so the house is kind of, like, isolated.
So
I
who
think
knows
it was
what
built
could
in
have
the
happened?
60s. Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's always wild stuff. I grew up in a haunted house myself, and I don't talk about it much, but it's just interesting. And I used to discuss it with my mother, and it would scare her, and then she would have something happen. So it's very weird. And then we had interactive entities, I guess, but there was also ones that were like on the loop, like that were just there. Like, I guess, I don't know, stuck or whatever it is. But that was always weird because I would walk by. It was only in one room. It was in the dining room. And I would walk by.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there was this fucking man in a trench coat and like an old hat. And he would just walk across the room. But he would walk halfway across, turn, and I feel like he would look at me, but he was just looking in that direction.
Yeah, like almost through you.
Yeah, for a few moments, and then keep walking. Like, I saw that hundreds of times, but I was the only one in the house that did, and it scared the dog shit out of me.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. My mom saw a little girl a couple times in the hallway, and, like, she would speak to her, mom would respond, and then try and go out in the hallway, thinking it was one of us, and, like, we wouldn't be home. So wild stuff. Have you dealt with anything or have you experienced anything since then? Just in general as far as paranormal.
No. At one point I thought maybe I did, but it wasn't. It was, I thought, well, I still think I heard something like run up the stairs to the attic, but he knows because he was there.
Okay.
He helped me figure it out. But the door would just like shake and stuff. And it goes up these steep stairs and it's like half finished and could be like kind of a cool room, but I don't really use it for anything because the heat or air conditioning doesn't really get up there very well. But there were just these sounds and I was like so freaked out about it that I put a doorstop on the door. I'm like, you fuckers aren't going to, like, you're not going to open this at all. Like, you're not coming down here. And I'm like, listen, whatever is going on, I just don't want any part of it. If you need to hang out here, just leave me alone. I have anxiety. Can we not, ask them to go away in the way that I would? But then I did find out that the window up there was like completely open and the screen was like off. So who knows? I mean, nothing can crawl in there, but I mean, there could. I don't know. I'm surprised there wasn't bats.
No, what do you mean nothing can crawl in there?
Nothing could, because it's so high up and it's not by any trees or anything. Like no raccoons, no anything with the siding. There's no way.
You know, raccoons are quite ingenious.
No, there's I don't know.
The thing is, it wouldn't even need to be by near a tree. He could set up a little zip line, like.
I guess that's true.
And just,
they do have thumbs.
Yeah, they got boom, 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 boom. Planning. This is what they're doing. They're planning with their thumbs the whole time.
That's probably what it was.
You know, that's funny you mention that. We actually had raccoons in our attic.
I was like freaked out because I didn't understand what but I didn't. It still wasn't the same as those feelings I had in my childhood house. Like it wasn't. I was freaked out, but it wasn't like all my senses weren't on like high alert.
Now,
you know,
since you've experienced stuff like that, has that led you to explore anything else, like getting more info or anything like that on things on the paranormal side? Has that piqued an interest for you?
I mean, I do. For a while, yes, but honestly, it really makes me feel almost like then I'm going to start seeing things again if I read into things too much. Like I feel like I'm like opening the gates or something, and I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it.
No, that you never know. That could be true.
And I do get there's certain things that scare me, but I mean I've done all kinds of different things that you think might be like horrifying, like I mean, just as far as like skydiving. I'm a certified firefighter in West Virginia. I don't really do it that much anymore.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I mean that there's scary things with that and things that might be actually horrifying.
Yes.
And I can deal with those things, but I cannot deal with like ghosts and stuff, and even like ghost movies. Like I'm curious about like what the plot is and what happens, but sometimes I'll just sit there and look up the entire synopsis and be like, I'm good.
I want to know why my guests always try and hold out on me with interesting tidbits about themselves. So, skydiving, something that I want to do this year. When did you do it? How was it? Let me know what you thought.
It's been a while, maybe like 7-8 years maybe. I loved it, and I really don't like heights and I don't like roller coasters. But there's a difference with this is because you don't feel like you're falling whenever you when you jump.
Oh, really?
It feels like you're floating, and it's windy, but you don't get that like
stomach.
Yeah, you don't. It's strange.
Now, the landing, how's that? Does that hurt your legs at all?
No. Well, usually if you go with a company, I don't know too many that won't make you go tandem with like one of their certified instructors. So they normally will go 1, 2, 3 whenever it's like close, and then you like lift your legs up, and then you both like scoot in on your butt, because there's no way to like coordinate, especially with somebody that's not used to skydiving and things. So with 2 people, it's just easier so you don't break your legs, is why they told me that they do it that way.
Yeah, that's a blast, man. That sounds so much fun.
Yeah.
I rode
the plane ride up is scary.
Okay.
It was scarier than jumping, honestly.
Why is that?
Because it's like a tin can with wings, and there's like no seats, and then you just kind of like just sit on your knees, and then you're just kind of like strapped into the literal floor of the plane. And it's like shaky, and there's only a few people that can be in it. And
reminds me of like a movie where they get the drunk pilot who's reliable and can fly his ass off, but he's got a hunk of junk.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that. I mean, yeah.
This is Wings McGee. He was the best pilot in 1982. Firefighter. I never knew that about you, first off.
Yeah.
So, how long did you do that?
It was whenever I was living in Wheeling at the first time. So I don't know. It might have been like 3 years.
Okay.
I don't live close enough to the fire station now to be able to really make calls. And I really don't have the time to fully commit to it. But yeah, it was.
How
really cool.
does one get into that?
I just like knew people that were doing it, and I was hanging around the station.
Mm-hmm.
And it was volunteer.
Okay.
So, and then they just asked if I'd want to do it, and they're like, "You're here all the time anyway." So, I just started to get my stuff, that I needed, and
you were
they
full
went
in?
through the courses and everything. I have my firefighter 1 certification. So basically, that means like I could go into a burning structure. However, like someone would have to be with me. With the second one, you can like do more things. So you could like go in without someone or whatever, which we normally didn't do because it's not safe necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's different things that firefighter 2s can do, but I didn't really care to do that. I'm like, no, I'm good with just like the one, and typically you stay outside the structure and things like that.
Hosing off and
yeah, which I experienced more ambulance stuff than firefighting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more calls, and then there's also like part of their area was where Cabela's is at the Highlands up there that you'd pass like on your way down here.
That was the highway I was arrested on.
Well, that highway is just awful.
70.
Yeah, it's just awful. And it's like
Shout
super
out to-
dangerous right
Shout
there.
out to Trooper Marasco, you piece of shit. You can still go fuck yourself.
So yeah, I mean, we would answer calls for like burning fajitas at Applebee's and stuff like that too.
Wow.
Because like you have to.
What is
like,
that? What do you mean burning
is it-
fajitas?
Well, it's just when the fire alarms go off at one of the businesses up there, like you need to respond.
Oh, so literally a plate sizzle.
Literally, it happened with the fajitas at like Applebee's all the time. It's like they took the thing and then put it up next to it and be like, yeah, let's get these dudes up here. They don't have anything else to do. Like, we'll just, put the steaming hot, peppers and stuff next to the...
Okay, I have a question. Because, like, all I know about firefighters...
But yeah, there was more accident scenes that I saw, though, and, like, health emergencies.
All I know about firefighters is, like, what you see in the movies and shit. I know a couple, but I don't speak to them about, like, firefighting.
Yeah.
So let me just get you to give me a rundown of a quick basic scenarios. How does the protocol go? So that you get a call, there's a fire.
Yeah. Well, you usually, because it's volunteer, that a lot of times that's different. You're not necessarily at the, you have a radio, and then there'll be tones that drop. So each station, like each area has different tones. So it's like what the sound is.
Okay.
And then over the dispatch, it'll say like structure fire, calling, whatever units and things, and or if it's a
now, since
accident.
It's volunteer, do you have your, I guess for lack of a better word, outfit with you, or is it still at the station?
Usually I kept mine at the station. Like my gear, which didn't fit me very well. The ladies' auxiliary were wonderful and hemmed the pants for me, but the crotch was like down by my knees. So like we got a new ladder truck, which was awesome, and we were doing training with it. And I went to grab the nozzle and then like jumped off of the truck, but like I'm trying to run, so it's like I'm scurrying with this, and then. I'm also wearing which the lightest oxygen tanks we had were like 30 pounds. So that's still like a lot whenever you're trying to move quickly, but then your knees are like...
Yeah, and you're not a big lady at all.
No.
So that's a significant portion of your body weight, too.
Right, yeah. So it just, I just went, but I did tuck and roll and save the nozzle. We were worried about that. But but my bunker gear like didn't fit very well, so it was like interesting me trying to maneuver and stuff. But I did have my jumpsuit with me that normally, if I was in the ambulance, that I would.
Okay. Now, when you guys would get to a fire, I know it has to be fast, and you guys assess things, but how does that work? Like, because I know different fires need different things.
I mean, usually I would just listen to like our chief and stuff, or whoever the senior member was there, like on what to do if there was anything. But I mean, I saw like a barn fire, and then I saw a trailer. I didn't see nearly as much because I still lived like in an area where it was hard to make the first or second truck. So
Okay.
it's like, let's see. But yeah, I mean, find your water source, and, you know, they all just kind of were so good at just connecting everything really quickly. And I mean, you just want to make sure that there's no one in there, right? And make sure it doesn't spread to anything else. So that's just kind of like trying to contain it. And then, but sometimes it was like smaller, sometimes it was like a raging, because some of the older trailers, like prior to like a certain year, they're just
Wood everywhere.
They give me anxiety even seeing people live in them, just because they go up very quickly. Like
I've torn down trailers for a trailer park in the Washington County area years ago, but I tore down about 15 of them, and only the frame is metal. Like the actual trailer they sit on, everything else is wood and plastic and whatnot. Like, so I can see them just going up. There's
but I mean, now they're way better structurally sound and built, but they would pretty much go up. Like, you're lucky if you can get out of something like that.
Tell me more about your ambulance trips.
Well, those are pretty
Well, not in that manner. I just want to know, like, were you trained in aid and whatnot?
I had like CPR and first aid, and then as long as like you're with like an EMT and like a paramedic and stuff, I mean, you can assist on things. Or it's like I might be on scene and help them load, like help pull people out of vehicles.
Okay.
Stuff like that. And then, you know, I've been in the back of the ambulance a few times, maybe more than a few. But
just for fun then. Any cat calls? Or calls about cats? Not
I was like, well,
not like, woohoo, look at that fire person. No, any calls about cats in the trees?
not that I recall.
Okay.
There's been
And Crin, I always like to
weird things.
I always like to ask people to give the listeners some advice. But what I'm going to ask you about today, because you're in entertainment, you're in social work, social justice, you've been a firefighter, varying things, and you seem to have found success at many of them. What advice would you give to people trying to pursue either an entertainment or a promotional job?
I'd say get involved with whatever you can, and try to, you know, meet people that are kind of doing the same thing, and that want to build and want to work on things and have a vision, and try to just get the experience. Because a lot of what I've been able to do is because of the networking piece, and meeting like-minded folks that really like to create and that are visionaries in their own certain areas. That's kind of helped me kind of meet this person that I know can help me with this. That's helped me meet, like, you know, get connected to you and then a bunch of other people, and then starting to, you know, it's getting involved and actually doing it, because I never went to school for anything like this. It just kind of snowballed into a lot of different opportunities, which I'm really thankful for and think is super cool. But I'd also say not to get too bogged down if something doesn't work out.
You just said it snowballed. To that effect, so it didn't happen overnight.
No.
Any words to the people out there that are just frustrated that things aren't immediately happening for them?
It's just, well, especially right now, it's a little bit more difficult to really do much of anything. But I'm pretty self-reflective. So it's like if something isn't working out or it's not what I want to see, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I'd say don't waste your time bitching too much on like what someone else did or didn't do, or you think like screwed things up for you. Because the only thing that you can control is like yourself and what you're going to do. So I just try to think, well, this is not going the way that I really want it to go. And I think if it continues this way, I'm not going to be happy. So what can I do to try something different? Or what avenue haven't I tried? So there's always different roads to take, even if you think you're at a dead end.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. So, Crin, where can the people find you?
Well, my Instagram is virtual Crinsanity, because Jamiroquai is amazing.
I love that. I love that name, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, my Instagram is just a lot of times animals and food and things right now, because that's a lot of the time I spend is doing those things. But especially with not too many events happening, and then I mean, Crin Joy, CrinJoy is my name and things on Facebook, and I post a lot of things publicly, especially when there are events and stuff like that.
What about if they need to or want to reach out to Exit Zero or Folklore? Where can they find that?
Folklore it's folklorepr.com, I'm pretty sure, but you can also look them up, FolklorePR. That's their Instagram handle. If you find pictures of like a burgundy owl, that's their logo, so then you're in the right place.
Okay.
And then Exit Zero Entertainment is just on Instagram, no spaces or anything, Exit Zero Entertainment. Same thing with Facebook. Folklore is pretty active on the social media and things right now. Exit Zero, we just haven't, because we've just decided that throwing any sort of events or even attempting to at this time, we just don't want to do that. But we are actively discussing different things that we would like to do and see, hopefully, by summer. So I'd have people follow that to keep updated.
Okay, well, guys, make sure you check her out, Crin Joy. One of the dopest ladies I know, probably easily top 1,000 ladies I've ever met. I mean that, too, from the bottom of my heart. Hey, thank you for coming on, though.
Sure. Thank you
had
for
a great
having me.
time. Yeah. And, guys, check us out next week. I think it's Dave Speck Jr. Forgive me if I'm saying that name wrong. He is a forensic accountant and a man much smarter than myself. And if you get a chance, check out the Teespring store. We got some dope designs in there, thanks to Brianna Woodward at Not a Damn Cheese. Store link will be in the episode description. And that's all, folks. We'll see you next week. Peace and love.
Awesome.